Hey, what's up traders? In this video, we're going to talk about the RSI indicator. RSI stands for the Relative Strength Index. It's basically a momentum indicator that is going to tell you if a stock price is oversold or overbought. And the default settings for the RSI indicator work just fine. I have them set at 70 and 30. So the RSI indicator is right here at the bottom of my screen. I'll pull this up so you can see it. These lines, these yellow lines that go across, this is the RSI 70 and this is the RSI 30. So when a stock is trading at a high price and the RSI starts getting over the 70 level, the idea of this indicator is that it's overbought and it's likely due for a pullback. So we can see here I'm on the daily chart for Netflix, and every time this stock got a little overbought, the RSI was a little high, it pulled back and cooled off on the RSI. Again, we pushed up, RSI is getting overbought right here, and we pulled back. As a trader, you should never rely on just one indicator to give you a buy or sell signal. But when you're using the RSI indicator in conjunction with something like a support level or a resistance level, it could be a great tool to help you identify that the trend may be reversing. So let me go to the weekly chart and I'll show you what I mean. I can clearly see here that there is some resistance in this area on Netflix because we've previously hit this point here, 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 and then most recently here. So going back into the daily chart, now that we have our resistance line drawn on the weekly, we can go into the daily chart and see that when the RSI was getting a little overbought, a little high, RSI was high above 70, we were also hitting a resistance point, right? And so it makes sense that this stock may pull back and cool off some. On the flip side, if an RSI is below 30 on the bottom, it's indicating that the stock is oversold and may be due for a bit of a rally. So right here on this dip, when Netflix was oversold, the RSI was telling us that we are below 30, and we had this big run up to the top side. The RSI indicator is best used on the daily charts or the weekly chart, you know, the larger time frame. If I go into the 5-minute chart, you can see this RSI indicator. I mean, it's everywhere. So this is saying now that we're overbought, but the price came down and still continued up and then fell again. So, you know, it just moves too much with the smaller time frame. So I would not be wanting to use the RSI indicator on a smaller time frame. It's best used on the daily or weekly charts. Something to note though, this indicator is going to be used loosely. Remember, it's a technical indicator, okay, and fundamentals will usually take precedence over technicals. Okay, so let's say that a stock announces that they're going bankrupt. Let's say Netflix announces that they're going bankrupt and they're just selling off, and the RSI is saying it's below 30. That's not necessarily a signal to buy just because the RSI is below 30. Why? Because why would you want to buy something if the company's going bankrupt, right? Does that make sense? So always keep in mind what news is currently looming on the stock. You know, if the RSI is way oversold, it doesn't always mean that it's a good buy. Just make sure that you're looking into the fundamentals behind why a stock price may be falling or rising before making a decision, and never use just the RSI as an indicator to buy or sell. A good example of this is SPY recently. So this thing, you know, we had this big sell-off here, massive sell-off due to the coronavirus here recently, and so this was telling us, the RSI was telling us that we were getting oversold right at this point. And then look how much the price fell from this point down to here, 30%, a 30% drop. Had we bought off of this first signal that's saying the RSI is oversold, we would have been holding through this entire time. We would have caught the move down and then been mad that we lost money because our indicator is telling us to buy. So just an idea of how this market's going to keep selling off because of the coronavirus. Despite what this RSI is saying, the fundamentals are taking precedence over the technicals.